for a session presented by the Leela and Global Hotel Alliance. Please welcome CEO of the Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts, Anuraag Bhatnagar, and CEO of Global Hotel Alliance, Hartley, in discussion with Skift President, Carolyn Kremins.
Thank you all for being here. I can't even begin to tell you how happy we are to be in India. Anuraag, Chris, thank you for joining us. Chris, you're the CEO of Global Hotel Alliance. Global Hotel Alliance consists of 40 brands, 800 hotels in over 100 countries, and it's connected by its very robust loyalty program called Discovery. Anuraag, here we are in your beautiful hotel, Leela, CEO of Leela Palace Resort and Hotel. You're one of the leading brands here in India. It's great to have you both here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this summit so far, as you know, we're talking about the huge potential of Indian travel. We've been talking about outbound travel, which is the Indian travelers who are going international, inbound, those international travelers that are coming in, and domestic travel, Indians who are traveling within the country. And now we're going to talk a little bit in this session about that and some of the trends that we're seeing. So Chris, let's start with you. Share some of the trends, not only, before we get into the trends, share why you're excited about India and what it means to Global Hotel Alliance.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. And it's great to be here at the first ever Skift India Summit. And let me give you some context to why I'm so enthusiastic about India and what it means for Global Hotel Alliance, and take you back to my first trip to India in 1996, which is nearly 30 years ago, so must be getting old. But I came to visit the Leela in Mumbai, which was the first Leela Hotel, and at that time I was with Kempinski. It was the Leela Kempinski. Some of you in the audience may remember that, and Kempinski was owned by Lufthansa. So we had this beautiful flag carrier, Lufthansa. We've been hearing about Air India earlier, but we had Lufthansa and we had Kempinski, so this great German organization driving business into India. And I remember the founder and visionary behind the Leela Group, Captain Christian Nair, invited me up to his office and said, "Young man, I need to talk to you about travel and tourism." And he took me up to his office, and I was quite sort of intimidated to meet this great man in person. And he said, "Listen, Chris, I need to explain something to you. You, the British and the Germans, you dominate travel today. But in my grandchildren's generation, India will dominate travel and tourism." And I sat and listened. He said, "Listen, we already beat you at cricket, and soon we will be beating you at travel and tourism as well."
Both his predictions
And I remember that conversation to this day. In fact, it's particularly nice. Last night, I think she's here today, Amruda Nair, his granddaughter, who set up Araya Hotels and is demonstrating that exact point, that this generation is going to be the one that really dominates travel and tourism for India. So what is GHA in India today? We have a fantastic partnership with Leela since that time. Leela was the first adopter of membership of Global Hotel Alliance here in India. We're 20 years old now. We have 14 hotels in India with 3 brands, the Leela Group, Araya, who I mentioned, the granddaughter of the great Captain Nair, and Oaks Hotels. We will have an Anantara opening its first hotel here in Jaipur, actually, in a few months' time. And Global Hotel Alliance today manages a loyalty platform. We generated $2.3 billion in revenue last year, so a significant platform. India is a growing part of that. Last year, we generated about $68 million of revenue in India, but it only represents a small potential today, and we see that growing considerably over the years to come. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But a huge potential for the Indian market. Global Hotel Alliance continues to grow. We were up about 70% in revenue last year, adding new brands, and very keen to do more together with our long-standing partner here in India.
Fantastic. So Anuraag, we've been hearing why Chris is excited about India. You come from Marriott before you joined Leela as CEO, and I mean, Marriott has their huge Bonvoy program. You're now working with Global Hotel Alliance. Can you share what some of the benefits are and the relationship that the two of you have between your brands?
Surely, but before I go there, I must say that legendary Captain and I's predictions were right on both the fronts. India being at the forefront of the world map and also consistently beating England in cricket. So that's something that's come true.
I told you we can't talk about cricket until the end.
Yeah,
we have
so
time.
I think he
okay?
brought it up.
You had
brought it up,
strict
right?
instructions, and then Chris went and blew it. So
I think our collaboration, our partnership, our marriage with GHA is like extended 2 decades, close to 17 years now, and growing and strengthening. What it provides for us is, and a kind of a differentiator is, access to luxury and high-end lifestyle brands and 26 odd million consumers who are like from independent hospitality luxury brands, which are very similar to our customer base. So that's, I think, a big advantage for us because we are represented in that sense globally. The second platform that I think Discovery offers to us is the fungibility and the ease at which you can understand the program from a customer standpoint. The Discovery dollar, for instance, one Discovery dollar is a true dollar. Unlike many other programs of loyalty where there's a bit of algorithms and ambiguity that probably you wouldn't understand really. And I think the other thing is, the program is built around not just earn and burn, but it's also built around experiences. For instance, there are 30 odd experiences, and we were listening earlier in terms of changing demographics, new customers, new consumers coming in. It's experiential first. It's not necessarily like many other brands. A Discovery, a Leela Discovery guest, for instance, has access to 30 odd experiences that you can choose, and they address all the needs. So I think this is where it gives us a bit of a differentiated advantage, if I may use that word. We have 5.5 lakhs and growing members based out of India. Our members in India obviously represent the highest spectrum of consumers on the overall luxury spectrum. And with all the trends pointing in that direction, we definitely see this growing.
excellent. So Chris, the loyalty program, you have what, about 26 million members. So you sit on a lot of data, and you can see patterns, right? So when it comes to Indian travelers, we're going to see a lot more travel in the future. Can you inform us, tell us what do they want? From the data, what are you seeing that Indian travelers want?
Well, firstly, just to give a sense of scale, we have about 500,000 India-based members in GHA Discovery. So that sounds like quite a lot of people, but in a market of 1.4 billion, that's actually quite small. In Australia, for example, we have 2 million members, and that's about 10% of the population. So if we were going to match that, we would need about 140 million members here in India. So it gives you the sense of scale and opportunity. But we have a lot of data as to what Indian travelers are looking for. We do annual surveys. What's fascinating is in India, people say more than any other country in the world that they're going to take a lot of trips in the next year. So we were shocked and surprised, positively surprised to see Indian travelers saying they're going to take 12 trips next year. Now, some of those are staycations. They could be visiting friends and families. That's effectively saying 1 trip a month somewhere. And about half of those, for a lot of people at the luxury end, are going to be international trips as well. So obviously, we're looking at a very small demographic, but we're seeing an audience that is very keen to travel. And when you extrapolate those numbers, it's quite incredible that you see a forecast where Indian travelers will be taking about 5 billion trips a year in the next 10 years. And as is forecast, 1% of those are going to be international. You're talking about 50 million international trips. So it sort of gives you a sense of scale. So we're just at the beginning of touching on that sort of opportunity. In terms of what's driving them, they're very much looking to explore new destinations. Food, cuisine in different countries is very popular. And in terms of those destinations, very much internationally, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and of course the US, which you saw earlier on one of Rafat's charts.
So you mentioned half a million members, right? So they're going outbound now. So how does that play into your strategy?
Well, in terms of our strategy, the key, as I just said, is how do you capture market share of this huge growing Indian market? And Anuraag has just touched a little bit on the importance of the loyalty platform. You've got the competition from the likes of Bonvoy, from Hilton Honors, from Accor Limitless. But what we have here is a unique brand with Leela, but we need to reach more domestic travel because there's so many travelers going through the market in India that are able to be captured into a loyalty program. And once you capture them into a loyalty program, you can clearly see in their choices that they're more likely to go with a brand as they travel internationally. You heard about Star Alliance earlier, Air India being part of Star Alliance. Customers are much more likely to choose a brand internationally that is going to recognize them when they travel. And so the key for us is capturing more customers in this market, and that's through the expansion with our partner Leela and hopefully other hotels in the future and other brands. And then once you've captured those customers, to engage them and give them a reason to stick within your ecosystem as they travel internationally. And that very much comes out in our research about the loyalty preferences of customers based in this market.
So I guess those 40 brands, then you have an opportunity to take the traveler and place them.
That's right. And as Anuraag was saying, we're very much operating, unlike some of the other loyalty programs, in a very luxury market segment. You saw earlier some of our brands like Kempinski, I mentioned Capella, Pan Pacific, and these are brands that really are operating at a very luxury level. When Indian travelers are going overseas, they're looking for luxury brands and luxury experiences. And so having that ecosystem of luxury brands is very attractive. We're also owner-operators, which makes the experience delivery so much better than some of these franchise brands. So I think that's an opportunity that we can capitalize on, is engaging that Indian customer and explaining what a rich choice of brands they have when they travel internationally.
Right. So that's outbound. So let's focus a little bit on the inbound, right? So you have all of these international travelers. India, you know, India as a whole entices travelers to come to India. But also, you know, you're showing it pictures and inspiration and all of that, but then you have to meet their expectations once they come. So with Leela and GHA, like, how are you enticing these travelers who are coming in? What are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that you do meet those expectations?
Yeah, I mean, here in India, it's really the execution that makes the difference. And I think customers choosing to come to India for the first time, especially this growing leisure market, are looking for these unique experiences. And I would defer to the great experiences I've always had when staying in Leela's hotels across the country as to really giving you that feeling of the Indian culture and history. And I think a brand like Leela can deliver that much more effectively than if I can say an American brand implanting itself into this country. And so I think for people coming into the country, that's the sort of experience they're looking for. But would you agree, Anuraag?
So just to add on to what Chris mentioned about the Leela, I think somebody was talking about using consumer insights and taking feedback from the guests. So we realized really ahead of the curve, whilst preserving the luxury offerings of Leela, we wanted to introduce programs which would solve for what our international as well as domestic guests were looking at. Working at the highest end of the luxury platform, it was very, very important that we introduce branded services and programs which could be delivered consistently across a portfolio, 365 days in city hotels as well as resorts. For instance, 70% of Leela's business, right now at 63%, of the total residential guests who stay at Leela hotels are international guests. So we introduced something called ceremonial rituals that happens in every Leela hotel between 6:30 and 7 p.m. every night. It's a branded program where we bring the best of local culture, cuisine, music, programming, everything, because we realize that we kind of bring the taste and flavor of local India to you. The Leela Palace Services has been voted and has been named as one of the finest programs. That's a butler program which offers touch points that matter. Not touch points that are good to have, but touch points that really give you ease of, for a corporate guest, for instance, time is so critical. So, our palace services solves for that to ensure that it's intuitive and you're able to kind of anticipate what you're required. For our resorts, we come up with a program which gives insider access. Let's say our hotels in Rajasthan, we have a collaboration access that gives you not just access to the parts of City Palace or other historic monuments where you wouldn't have regular, not on the run of the mill, but with excellent storytelling, authentic experiences, untold stories and anecdotal stuff which can really add value to your experience. On the inward looking side, we recognize that sustainability and mindful travel is very, very important and not just something good to have, but something people want to really experience as a touch point. So we launched Ojasya. This was just after COVID, which was a well-being program, has started with the first pillar, first pillar of nutrition, then we're expanding on it. We brought in Tishya, which is specially curated, where we use our own flowers, which are specially grown for Leela. It's not available off the shelf. You only experience it if you stay in a Leela hotel, where we use the fragrance from 2 flowers. One of them is very rare, blossoms once in 12 years. We launched our Icons of India program, which gave us access and kind of an alliance with, India's finest and the world's best, like Honorable Dr. Kailash Satyarthi and young, and representatives of India like Smriti Mandhana, the cricketer, and Manushi Chiller, Miss Universe, and Aman and Ayan Ali Baksh, which actually gave front row seats to our regular guests. And we were talking about not just, customer attraction, but guest retention, which is key in any business. So these some of the experiences that we created and crafted over the last few years. But the key thing was delivery, to ensure that these are not just good to have, but are really meaningful and add value to your stay experience. That's been helpful, especially for not just our domestic, because they have more access to this, but also our inbound. The other thing that makes it easier for us, because between us and the GHA Alliance, we share the same set of customers. In the cohort of 40 brands, I can say some of the brands are always, including Leela, are consistently featuring in the world's best brands. At the highest end, at the top 5 or top 10 every year. So it makes it easier for us to craft programs and services to cater to this kind of clientele.
Right, so you're talking a lot about the experiences, and so one of the things that Chris mentioned earlier from the data is that one of the things that Indian travelers really prioritize is this idea of feeling recognized and feeling special. I mean, you have all these lovely experiences. What are some of the things that you're doing that really does help that traveler when they walk into your hotel feel like they are special?
So I think in that sense, technology has come as a big enabler for us. There's a lot of work that's happening at the back end to solve for the front end in terms of not just insights, but using data to make our personalized program more easier to deliver because multi-unit stays, multi-property stays. I think our palace services literally solves from airport to airport experience for you. We launched the Leela Palace Trail specifically for our international guests, which give you access to 6 of our Leela properties across our portfolio, wherein we can actually take care, once you arrive in India, from the airport to the time you depart. Over the next 7 to 10 days, we can take care of that. And many travel agent friends that we have in the room, this is a product that we have created extremely popular now for all our source markets. So personalization and recognition is something which is really at forefront. It's all delivered through a culture of, making that important. It's part of our Leela Dharmas, as part of our onboarding program, as part of our associate engagement and their inclusion into, this kind of front-ending this. It's very much a high priority thing. And down the line, we have operationalized this to ensure that this is something that's discussed in every hotel, in operations meeting, morning meetings, identification of the needs, your preferences. The amenity program is for that. We try to understand what are your food habits and allergies and make sure that amenities and even to your drink preferences, your beverage preference. So our evening turn down amenity program is purely based on what really works for you.
Yeah,
you heard Jaideep earlier talk about using oranges and all of that. So Ojasya, our program for nutrition, is curated and crafted as part of that.
Well, I arrived at 2:30 in the morning yesterday, and I had a very warm welcome at that time when I really didn't expect to see anyone there, so thank you. So just as we close, I would love to know quickly, what excites you the most about India and the potential? I'll start with you, Anuraag, and then to you, Chris.
Me? India? Or just for...
Yeah, what excites you about the potential
we
for
have
travel?
just started.
Yeah,
And
we
what I
just
was seeing Rafat's data points in the morning, and I mean, if I just talk of inbound, less than 10 million inbound, out of which, you know, there's just 3 or 4 countries, that's a really low baseline. I think a 3x of that would probably be a fair share as far as inbound is concerned. And I think domestic, India is going through a revolution, I would say. I think we spoke about the median age being 28 years, which is 10 years younger than any other macro economy in the world.
Yeah.
And I was reading somewhere that by 2030, 47% of India would have crossed over to the middle class income with high propensity to spend on travel. Chris was referring to Indians taking more stays, more downtime, more vacation time. I live in a family with the generation that once they finish their first vacation, they're already planning the next.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, it's a good trend to have. So I think very exciting time to be in India. You know, somebody coined this word YOLO, like you only live once. We've seen more of that happening post-COVID. People are traveling more, driving to distances, spending more, and, you know, obviously consuming luxury. We also see this influx of this double income, no kids and Henrys, you know, high earners but not yet rich, which is a big segment out there, which all luxury brands are focused on. And we work with our partners to give us more focused insights into their consumption patterns. So I think India is really, the infrastructure side is also ramping up. I think there are 140...
We're running low on time, so Chris, I'm just going to ask you very quickly, what are you excited about most?
I think I've been fortunate to have a 35-year career in the hospitality industry, and during that career I've seen the emergence of Japanese travelers, then it was China, and look at that huge outbound potential. But I think the next 10 years is India's time. We're fully invested in this country. We want to build our partnership with Leela. We want to add new brands and hotels to really leverage the opportunity that this market represents. But I think that prediction is coming true, that India is going to be at the forefront of travel and tourism for the next generation. I'm looking forward to being part of that.
Well, thank you both. I wish we had time to talk cricket, but we're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.